Farmer fixes woman's car on the road, but calls police after seeing photo in glove box. Franklin Miller never imagined that evening would change his life forever. At 58, the widowed farmer was driving his pickup truck down the dusty roads of Green Valley when he spotted a young woman standing beside a car with its hood open. As he opened the glove box to look for tools, an old photo slipped from the documents and fell to the ground. Franklin bent down to pick it up, and his world crumbled. The image showed a child around 3 years old next to a woman who looked identical to his late wife, Martha. But what shocked him most was the small birthmark on the child's neck, exactly like the one his daughter Emily had when she disappeared 25 years ago. "Sorry, that photo is mine," the young woman said, nervously reaching out. Franklin slowly raised his eyes, carefully studying the face of the woman before him. She was around 28, with long brown hair and green eyes that seemed familiar, but it was when she slightly turned her neck that he saw it, the same crescent-shaped birthmark in the exact same spot. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Jessica. Jessica Wilson," she replied, trying again to take the photo. "Thanks for helping with the car, but I need to go." "Wait, this woman in the photo, is she your mother?" Jessica hesitated, biting her lower lip, a gesture Franklin recognized immediately. Martha used to do the exact same thing when she was nervous. "She was. She passed away when I was 16, but why are you asking?" "Because this woman looks just like my wife, and this child," he pointed at the photo, "has the same birthmark my daughter had." Jessica laughed nervously, shaking her head. "That's impossible. My mother adopted me as a baby. She always told me my birth parents couldn't raise me." "When were you born?" "March 12th, 1996. "But listen, sir." Franklin Miller. "Mr. Miller, I know you're trying to help, but I'm sure there's been a mistake. My mom, Nancy, was always honest with me about the adoption." Franklin's heart raced. His daughter Emily had disappeared in March 1996 when she was just 3. He and Martha had been at the hospital with her for pneumonia when, in the middle of the night, they were told she had stopped breathing. But they never showed them the body, claiming it would be too traumatic for the parents. "Jessica, I need to tell you something. My daughter Emily disappeared from Mercy General Hospital in March 1996. She was 3 years old, just like the child in this photo, and she had the same birthmark." Jessica's face paled. "Are you saying that—" "I'm saying you might be my daughter." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing, Jessica took a step back, shaking her head vigorously. "No, that can't be true. My mom Nancy told me my birth parents were too young to raise me. She said they willingly gave me up for adoption. But you have the photo. Why would your adoptive mother keep a picture with a woman she didn't know?" Jessica looked at the photo in her hands as if seeing it for the first time. She said it came with the adoption papers, that my birth parents left some keepsakes. "Jessica, my wife Martha died 2 years after we lost Emily. She never recovered from the loss. Look closely at this photo. This woman is the spitting image of my Martha." The young woman examined the image more carefully. The resemblance really was striking. She had always thought she looked like the woman in the photo, but had never deeply questioned the story Nancy had told her. "Even if it's true, I can't. This would destroy everything I know about myself." "Do you have any memories from before you were 3? Jessica hesitated again. She actually did. Strange fragments that had always bothered her. Memories of a house smelling like coffee and cornbread, of a man's voice singing lullabies, of a garden with sunflowers. "Sometimes I have dreams, places I don't know but that feel familiar." "What kind of places?" "A house with a wooden porch, a garden with big yellow flowers, a kitchen with a wood-burning stove." Franklin felt a shiver run through his body. His house had exactly those features. Martha loved sunflowers and planted them all over the garden. The kitchen still had the old wood-burning stove she insisted on using. "Jessica, you need to come with me. You need to see my house." "I can't. This is crazy. You're a stranger." Then at least let me show you one more thing. Franklin went to his pickup truck and grabbed his wallet. From it, he pulled out a faded photo of Martha holding Emily in her arms. The resemblance between the two women was striking, but what stood out most was the birthmark on the child's neck. Jessica looked at the photo and then touched her own neck, feeling the birthmark. This mark, it's exactly like mine. It's not just like yours, it's the same mark, Jessica. You're my daughter. Tears began streaming down the young woman's face. 25 years of life, of certainties, of identity, everything seemed to be crumbling. But then why did Nancy lie to me? Why did she say my birth parents couldn't raise me? That's a question we need to answer together. Jessica wiped her tears with the back of her hand. I need to go home. I need to think about this. Don't leave yet, please. I've already lost you once. I can't lose you again. The pain in Franklin's voice was palpable. Jessica studied him more closely. He was a tall man, with graying hair and wrinkles that seemed carved by sorrow. His brown eyes held a depth that spoke of years of suffering. I don't know what to do. Let's take it slow. You don't have to believe me now, but at least let me fix your car. After that, if you want, you can leave. Jessica nodded. Franklin grabbed his tools and began working on the engine. Meanwhile, she watched him, trying to find any physical resemblance between them. There was something in his gestures, in the way he furrowed his brow while working, that felt familiar. All done. It was just a loose hose, he said, closing the hood. Thank you. How much do I owe you? Nothing. Just tell me one thing. Do you remember any specific lullaby? Jessica looked at him confused. Why do you ask? Just answer, please. There's one that always comes to mind. I don't know where it's from, but it's about a star in the sky watching over a little girl. Franklin closed his eyes and began singing softly. Shining star in the sky so blue, watch over my Emily, my love, my true... Jessica's eyes widened. How do you know that song? Because I made it up for you. I sang it every night before you fell asleep. The young woman leaned against the car, her legs feeling weak. This can't be happening. Emily, you always asked me to sing that song. You said the star was your friend. Don't call me that. My name is Jessica. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to pressure you. Jessica got into the car and started the engine. Franklin approached the window. Can I give you my number, in case you want to talk? She hesitated, but took the paper he offered. I'm not making any promises. I'm not asking for promises. Just a chance to prove you're my daughter. Jessica drove off, leaving Franklin standing on the dusty road. He looked at the photo still in his hands, the same one that had fallen from the glove compartment. For the first time in 25 years, there was a spark of hope in her heart. On her way back home, Jessica couldn't stop thinking about the conversation. The fragmented memories that had always troubled her were starting to make sense. The house with the wooden porch, the garden with sunflowers, the lullaby, everything seemed to fall into place. When she got home, she found Nancy, her adoptive mother, preparing dinner. At 67, Nancy was a petite and delicate woman, her white hair always neatly styled. She had raised Jessica as her only child, giving her all the love and care she could. You're home early today, sweetheart. Did something happen? Jessica hesitated. How could she ask this without shattering the world of the woman who raised her? Mom, I need to ask you something about my adoption. Nancy stopped stirring the beans and turned around, her expression worried. What do you want to know? Are you absolutely sure my birth parents gave me up willingly? Of course, why do you ask? Today I met a man who thinks I might be his missing daughter. Nancy's face paled. What man? What did he say? He showed me a photo. The woman in the picture looks exactly like the one on my birth certificate. And he said his daughter disappeared from the hospital in March 1996. Nancy leaned against the sink as if she needed support. Jessica, you can't believe every story you hear out there. Mom, he sang a song I've always known, but never understood where it came from. How is that possible? It must be a coincidence. And the birthmark. He said his daughter had the exact same one I do. Nancy closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Sit down, Jessica. We need to talk. The two sat at the kitchen table. Nancy held her daughter's hands, her own trembling slightly. "When you were a baby, I was desperate to have a child. Your father had passed away, and I felt so alone. I met a woman who worked at the hospital. She said she could help me adopt quickly." "What woman?" "Nurse Sharon. She doesn't work there anymore. She told me there was a baby who needed a home that the parents couldn't raise her." "And you believed her?" "I wanted to believe it so badly. I paid a considerable amount, but I didn't ask too many questions. I was just so happy to have you." Jessica felt the ground give way beneath her. "So you knew there was something wrong with my adoption?" "I suspected, but I didn't want to admit it. You were so small, so helpless. I loved you from the very first moment." "Mom, do you understand what this means? I might have been stolen from my birth parents." Nancy began to cry. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't. If I had known you were taken from a family who loved you, I never would have agreed." Jessica stood up from the table, feeling a mix of anger and compassion. "I need to find out the truth. And if it's true, will you leave me?" "Never. You're my mother, no matter how I came to you. But I need to know who I really am." That night, Jessica couldn't sleep. She picked up the paper with Franklin's number and stared at it for hours. At 4 in the morning, she finally decided to call. "Hello? Mr. Franklin, it's Jessica. I'm sorry for calling so late." "Jessica, I couldn't sleep either. Are you okay? I talked to my adoptive mother. She admitted there was something suspicious about my adoption." Franklin's heart raced. "What did she say?" "That she paid a nurse to adopt me quickly, that she didn't ask too many questions because she wanted a child so badly." "Jessica, would you like to come here? I want to show you some things. Now, if you're willing. I know this must be hard for you, but I have photos, documents, things that might help clear everything up." Jessica looked out the window. The sun was beginning to rise on the horizon. "Okay, but I want my mom to come with me." "Of course, bring her." An hour later, Jessica and Nancy were in front of Franklin's house. It was exactly like in Jessica's dreams, a wooden house with a porch surrounded by a garden full of sunflowers. "My God," Jessica murmured. "I remember this place." Franklin greeted them at the door. He had arranged the living room table with photo albums, documents, and a few personal items. "Nancy, is this it?" he asked, showing the photo of the woman from the adoption papers. Nancy nodded, unable to meet Franklin's eyes. "This is my wife, Martha. She died 2 years after we lost Emily. She never recovered from the loss." "I'm so sorry," Nancy whispered. "You didn't know. I understand. But I need you to help me find Nurse Sharon. She retired soon after Jessica's adoption. I heard she moved to another town." Franklin showed Jessica a photo album. With each page, she recognized herself more. There were pictures of her as a baby, as a little girl, always with Martha and Franklin. "That's me," she said, pointing to a photo where she was in Martha's arms. "Yes, you loved that blue dress. Martha sewed it especially for you." Jessica began to cry. They weren't tears of sadness, but of recognition, as if finally the pieces of a puzzle that had always been missing were falling into place. "I remember this doll," she said, picking up a cloth doll from the table. "You called her Daisy. You wouldn't sleep without her." "Daisy," Jessica repeated, hugging the doll. "I remember Daisy." Nancy watched everything in silence, her tears mixing pain and guilt. "Franklin, what do you plan to do now?" "We just want the truth. And we want our family back." "But Jessica has been my daughter for 25 years. I raised her, took care of her, loved her. And she loves you too. That will never change. But she's also my daughter, Nancy. The two of you can still be mother and daughter. And at the same time, she can be my daughter too." Jessica looked at them both. "I need time to process all this." "Take all the time you need," Franklin said, "but please don't disappear again." "I won't, I promise." In the following days, Jessica began visiting Franklin regularly. He showed her the farm, told stories about when she was little, and taught her again the lullaby that used to put her to sleep. "Did you know you have two brothers?" he asked during one of these visits. "Brothers? I adopted two boys a few years after you disappeared. I couldn't replace you, but my heart needed someone to care for. They're younger than you, but they always knew they had a missing sister." "Where are they?" "Studying in the city. They come home every weekend. They'll go crazy when they find out you're back." Jessica felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She had brothers. What would it be like to meet them? Will they like me? They'll love you. They've always dreamed of meeting their big sister. That afternoon, Franklin took Jessica to the room that had been hers as a child. He had kept it exactly as it was 25 years ago, like a shrine of hope. "You kept everything the same," she said, touching the toys still arranged on the shelf. "I always believed you'd come back." Jessica walked to the bed and picked up a small baby blanket that lay on the pillow. "This blanket, Martha made it for you when you were born. You wouldn't sleep without it. I have a photo with this blanket. It's the only picture I have from when I was very little." Jessica took the photo from her purse and showed it to Franklin. In the image, she appeared as a baby, wrapped in the same blanket she now held in her hands. "Where did you get this photo?" "My mother Nancy said it came with the adoption papers." Franklin examined the photo carefully. "This was taken here, in this house. Look at the wall behind you. It's the same wall in this room." Jessica looked around and confirmed. The floral wallpaper was exactly the same as the one in the photo. "How did that nurse get this picture?" "She was here. Maybe she came to take you." The revelation was shocking. Jessica imagined a nurse coming to that house, taking her from her birth parents and handing her over to a family who had paid for her. "I need to find that nurse. We'll find her. Together." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. The following weekend, Jessica met her adoptive brothers. Michael was 22 and studying veterinary medicine, while Christopher, 19, was majoring in agriculture. Both had been adopted by Franklin when they were young children, coming from situations of abandonment. "So, you're the famous Emily," said Michael, hugging Jessica. "Actually, I'm Jessica. I've always been Jessica. To us, you've always been Emily, the lost sister Dad never stopped searching for," explained Christopher. "He looked for me every weekend, for years. He went to hospitals, orphanages, adoption agencies. He never gave up." Jessica felt her heart tighten. While she had grown up loved by Nancy, Franklin had never stopped searching for her. "Aren't you jealous of me?" "Why would we be?" asked Michael. "You're our sister. You always have been. But I had a life you didn't. I never went without. I was never abandoned. And we're grateful for that," said Christopher. "I'd rather know you were loved and cared for than imagine you suffering." Her brother's generosity moved Jessica. She realized that, even without knowing each other, they had developed a genuine sibling love. During dinner, Nancy joined them. It was strange for everyone, but little by little they found a balance. Nancy and Franklin talked about Jessica as if they were divorced parents discussing their daughter. "She's always been stubborn," said Nancy, smiling. "She got that from her mother. Martha was the same way," replied Franklin. "And smart, always top of her class." "Martha was very smart too. She worked at the town school before marrying me." Jessica listened to the conversation with a smile on her face. It was surreal having two parents talking about her, comparing her traits to her mother's. "You know I can hear you, right?" she teased. "Sorry, sweetheart, it's just so good to talk about you with someone who knows you as well as I do," said Franklin. "For me, it's also comforting to know you were loved from your very first day," added Nancy. After dinner, Jessica stayed alone with Franklin on the porch. He showed her the sunflower garden Martha had planted. She said sunflowers always face the sun, just like she always looked for you. "Can I plant some sunflowers at Nancy's house?" "Of course. Martha would be happy to know you're spreading her flowers around the world." "Franklin, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Do you forgive me for taking so long to find you?" Franklin hugged her, his tears wetting his daughter's hair. "There's nothing to forgive. You were a child, you had no choice. But I could have searched sooner. I could have questioned my adoption story more. Jessica, You were raised by a woman who loved you. She gave you a happy life. Don't blame yourself for being happy. I feel guilty for being happy while you suffered. Your suffering wouldn't have lessened mine. Your happiness is all I ever wanted for you." Jessica hugged her father tighter. For the first time, she called him Dad. "Dad, thank you for never giving up on me." "I'll never give up on you, Emily. I mean Jessica. Sorry, I'm still getting used to it. You can call me Emily. I like it when you call me that." "Are you sure?" "I am. Jessica is who I became, but Emily is who I've always been." In the following weeks, Jessica began dividing her time between the two homes. She worked in the city during the week and stayed with Nancy, but spent weekends on the farm with Franklin and the brothers. The adjustment wasn't easy. There were moments of tension, especially when Nancy felt threatened by the growing relationship between Jessica and Franklin. "You're pulling away from me," Nancy said one evening, as Jessica packed her bag for the weekend at the farm. "I'm not. I'm just getting to know my biological family better." "I'm your family, Jessica, for 25 years. And you always will be. But they're my family too. Can't I have two families?" Nancy sighed. "I'm afraid of losing you." "You'll never lose me, Mum. You taught me how to love, how to be kind, how to fight for what I want. Without you, I wouldn't be who I am today." "But you'd rather be with them." "It's not about preference. I'm just making up for lost time. They need me too, just like I need them." Nancy began to understand that her daughter wasn't choosing between families, but expanding the meaning of family. "Can I come with you this time?" "Of course. Franklin always asks about you." That weekend, Nancy stayed at the farm. She helped Franklin cook, talked with the boys about their studies, and even planted sunflowers in the garden. "You have a wonderful daughter," Franklin told Nancy. "We have a wonderful daughter," she corrected. Jessica watched it all with a smile. Her two families were learning to coexist, to share their love for her without competition. "Dad, can I tell you a secret?" she said to Franklin later. "Anything." "I always felt like something was missing in my life. Even though I was happy with Nancy, there was an emptiness I couldn't explain. And now? Now I feel whole. I have two mothers, two fathers, two brothers. My heart is full. Two mothers, Nancy and Martha. Even though I never met Martha, I feel she's my mother too. She carried me, loved me, suffered for me. Martha would be happy to know you think of her as your mother. Can I visit her grave?" "Of course, we'll go tomorrow." The next day, Jessica, Franklin, and Nancy went to the cemetery. Martha's grave was well kept, with fresh flowers and a family photo. "She was beautiful," Jessica said, looking at the picture. "You look so much like her." Jessica knelt beside the grave. "Hi, Mom, Martha. I know you don't know me, but I'm Emily, your daughter. I'm sorry it took me so long to come see you." She began to cry, and Franklin hugged her. "She knows you. She always believed you were alive. I want to leave something for her." Jessica took the old photo from her bag, the one that had fallen from the glove compartment on that first day, the photo of her as a child with Martha. "I want her to have this, so she knows I remembered her, even without realizing I did. She'll love that." Nancy watched silently. She felt no jealousy, only gratitude. Gratitude that Martha had given birth to such a wonderful daughter, one she'd had the privilege of raising. "Martha, thank you for giving me the most wonderful daughter in the world," Nancy said, stepping closer to the grave. "Thank you for taking care of her when I couldn't," Franklin replied. Back at the farm, Jessica shared an idea she'd been considering for days. "Dad, would you like to expand the farm?" "What do you mean?" "I want to work with you. We could start a family farming project, maybe open the farm for tours, teach kids about agriculture. You'd leave your job in the city. I could work part-time there and part-time here, or maybe open a rural consulting office here." Franklin was moved. "I've always dreamed of working with you." "Then let's make that dream come true." Michael and Christopher were excited too. "We can help too," Michael said. I'm graduating in veterinary medicine, so I can handle the animal health side. And I can help with the technical aspects of farming, added Christopher. It would be a true family business, said Jessica. What about Nancy? Asked Franklin. She can be our administrative consultant. She's always been good with numbers. That night, they planned the future of the farm. It would be a project uniting both sides of Jessica's family, creating something new and beautiful. But there was still one unresolved matter: finding Nurse Sharon. I need to confront her, said Jessica. I need to know exactly how everything happened. I've tried to find her many times over the years, but she just disappeared, explained Franklin. Maybe I can help, said Nancy. I have friends who worked at the hospital around the same time. They might know something. The next day, Nancy called an old acquaintance named Karen, who had been a nurse at Mercy General Hospital. Karen, do you remember Sharon, who worked at the hospital in the mid-90s? Sharon Thompson. Of course I remember. Why do you ask? I need to find her. It's about my daughter's adoption. Nancy, you know there was something off about the adoptions Sharon facilitated, right? I suspected, but I didn't want to admit it. She was fired after they uncovered irregularities. I heard she moved to Three Rivers in rural Colorado. Do you have any way to contact her? No, but I know someone who might. My cousin lives there and worked at the local hospital. I'll call her. 2 hours later, Karen called back. I got Sharon's address. She lives at 342 Flower Street. But Nancy, be careful. I've heard she doesn't like talking about the past. Thank you, Karen. You've helped me so much. Jessica, Franklin, and Nancy decided to travel to Three Rivers the following weekend. It was a 4-hour trip, but they all felt it was necessary to close this chapter. I'm nervous, Jessica said during the drive. Me too, admitted Franklin, but we need to know the truth. What if she doesn't want to talk? We'll insist. She owes us an explanation of how it all happened. When they arrived at Flower Street, they found a small, simple house with a well-kept garden. Sharon Thompson, now 72, greeted them at the door with suspicion. Yes, Mrs. Thompson, my name is Nancy Wilson. You helped me adopt a baby girl in 1996. Sharon's expression hardened instantly. I don't know what you're talking about. Mrs. Thompson, this is Jessica, the girl you gave me, and this is Franklin, her birth father. Sharon tried to shut the door, but Franklin stopped her. Please, we just want to talk. We're not here to cause trouble. You've already caused trouble by showing up. Mrs. Thompson, you stole my daughter from me, Franklin said firmly but controlled. I didn't steal anything. That child was abandoned at the hospital. Abandoned? My wife and I were there. You told us she'd stopped breathing. Sharon glanced around as if checking if anyone was listening. Come inside, but keep your voices down. They entered the small house and sat in the living room. Sharon poured herself water before speaking. You don't understand how things worked back then. There were so many families wanting to adopt and so few children available. But Emily wasn't available for adoption, Franklin said. She had parents who loved her. You were poor, barely had money to pay the hospital. How were you going to raise a child? That wasn't your decision to make. I saw a chance to give that child a better life. Nancy here could offer education, healthcare, a real future. And you made money off it, Nancy accused. I had to live. The hospital didn't pay well. Jessica, who had stayed quiet until then, finally spoke. Mrs. Thompson, do you have any idea how much pain you caused? My father spent 25 years searching for me. My biological mother died of a broken heart. I didn't know she would die. But you knew you were tearing a family apart. I thought I was doing what was best for everyone. For everyone? Or for your own pocket? Sharon lowered her head. Maybe I was wrong. How many other children did you sell? Asked Franklin. I didn't sell them. I facilitated adoptions. How many? About 5 or 6 over the years. And the parents? Do they know their children are alive? Some might suspect, but I've lost contact with everyone. Jessica felt a mix of anger and pity for the woman in front of her. Mrs. Sharon, you destroyed families. You caused unnecessary pain. I know. I've lived with that guilt for 25 years. Is there any way you can make things right? Help other families reunite? I don't have the records anymore. I burned everything when I retired. You burned them. Why? Because I was afraid of being found out. Franklin stood up, clearly furious. You condemned other families to suffer what I suffered. I'm sorry, I truly am. Being sorry doesn't bring back the lost years. Jessica placed a hand on her father's arm. Dad, let's go. We've heard what we needed to. Are you going to report me? Sharon asked fearfully. No, it's been too long. But I hope you live with the weight of what you've done. They left the house in silence. During the drive back, each processed what they'd heard differently. I forgive her, Jessica suddenly said. How can you forgive her? Asked Franklin. Because holding on to anger won't change what happened, and because in a twisted way she gave me a wonderful mother. But she took you from me, and now I'm back. Dad, we can't change the past, but we can build the future. Nancy, who had stayed quiet the whole time, finally spoke. I feel guilty. I should have questioned things more back then. Mom, you wanted to be a mother. There's nothing wrong with that. But I bought a child. I literally bought you. No, you loved me, you raised me, you gave me a happy life that's priceless. But the methods were wrong, but your intentions were pure. You didn't know I'd been taken from a family that loved me. How can you be so generous? Because I learned generosity from you. I learned to forgive, to love unconditionally. Franklin watched his daughter in the rearview mirror. You're a better person than I am, Emily. I'm not better. I just chose not to let bitterness destroy my happiness. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. When they returned to Green Valley, Jessica made a decision that surprised everyone. I want to legally change my name to Emily Jessica Miller Wilson. Why? Asked Nancy. Because I want to honor all parts of my identity. Emily is who I was, Jessica is who I became, Miller is my biological family, and Wilson is my adoptive family. But it's such a long name, said Franklin. My life is big. I have 2 families, 2 fathers, 2 mothers. My name should reflect that. Are you sure? I am, and I want both of you to come with me to make it official. At the courthouse, Emily Jessica Miller Wilson signed the papers that sealed her new identity. It was a symbolic gesture, but an important one for her. Now I'm officially both of yours, she said, hugging Franklin and Nancy. You always were, Nancy replied. Always, Franklin confirmed. In the months that followed, Emily Jessica dedicated herself to building the new life she'd envisioned. She and Franklin turned part of Second Chance Farm into a rural education center where city children could learn about farming and country life. Nancy became the project administrator, using her experience to manage finances and logistics. Michael handled the veterinary side, while Christopher developed sustainable farming techniques. I never thought I'd have such a big family, said Emily Jessica during Sunday dinner. Family isn't about blood, said Nancy. It's about love. And forgiveness, added Franklin. And choices, Michael chimed in. And accepting that sometimes life takes us down unexpected paths, Christopher finished. Emily Jessica smiled, looking around the table. She had 2 fathers, 2 mothers, even though Martha was physically absent, 2 brothers, and a complicated story that had turned beautiful. Do you know what makes me happiest? She asked. What? Said Franklin. Knowing that Martha is watching all this, that she knows I came home and that I'm not alone. She knows, Franklin confirmed. And she's proud of the woman you've become. We're all proud, said Nancy. That night, Emily Jessica stayed on the farm's porch, gazing at the stars. Franklin joined her and sat by her side. What are you thinking about? I'm thinking that if I could go back in time, I wouldn't change a thing. Not even the suffering we went through. Not even. Because suffering taught us to cherish what we have now. If I'd grown up here, maybe I wouldn't value this family as much. You're wise for your age. I've learned that life isn't about what happens to us, but how we respond to it. And how did you respond? I chose to love. I chose to forgive. I chose to build bridges instead of walls. Your mother Martha would be proud. All my mothers would be proud. Franklin hugged his daughter. Thank you for coming home. Thank you for never giving up on me. I'd never give up. Even if it took 1,000 years, I'd keep searching. You won't need to. I'm here now. Forever. Forever. The next day, Emily Jessica woke early to tend to the sunflowers she'd planted. They were growing strong, always facing the sun, just as she'd learned to do. Nancy arrived at the farm early, bringing breakfast for the whole family. It was a tradition they'd developed. Sundays were for family breakfasts. "Good morning, daughter," she said, hugging Emily Jessica. "Good morning, Mom. Did you sleep well?" "I did. I dreamed of Martha." "What did she say?" "That she was happy, that our family was complete now." "She's right. Michael and Christopher arrived soon after, returning from a weekend of studies in the city. They brought updates on the projects they were developing for the farm." "Sis, we have a proposal," said Michael. "What proposal?" "We want to create an adoption program for abandoned animals here on the farm." "What a wonderful idea," said Emily Jessica. "It'd be a way to give a second chance to animals who've been abandoned," explained Christopher. "Just like we got a second chance as a family." "Exactly." Franklin, who'd been listening, stepped closer. "I like the idea. Let's turn the farm into a place of second chances. For animals, for families, for people who need a fresh start," said Nancy. "What name do you suggest for the project?" "How about Second Chance Farm?" proposed Emily Jessica. "Perfect," said Franklin. "We'll register it today," said Nancy. That afternoon they went to town to register the project. It was another step in building something bigger than their individual stories. "I'm proud of you all," said Franklin as they headed back to the farm. "Why?" asked Emily Jessica. "Because you took a tough situation and turned it into something beautiful." "We learn by example," said Michael. "What example?" "Yours. You never stopped searching for Emily Jessica, even when everyone said it was impossible." "And Aunt Nancy's example," Christopher added. "She never gave up on love even when she discovered the truth about the adoption." "You're all my role models," said Emily Jessica. "You've taught me that love has no limits, that family knows no borders." "And you taught us that forgiveness is possible," said Nancy. "That second chances exist," Franklin finished. When they arrived at the farm, they found a surprise. At the entrance, there was a new sign, "Second Chance Farm, where everyone deserves a fresh start." "Who put this here?" asked Emily Jessica. "I did," said Franklin. "I had it made yesterday, wanted it to be a surprise." "It's perfect," said Nancy. "Now it's official. We're a family that helps other families find each other." "And helps animals find homes," added Michael. "And teaches kids about life," Christopher chimed in. "And helps people learn about forgiveness," Emily Jessica concluded. That night, they held a small celebration. Franklin played the guitar, Nancy baked her famous cornbread cake, and the boys told jokes that made everyone laugh. "You know you're my favorite family, right?" said Emily Jessica. "We're your only family," Michael teased. "No, you're not. But you're my chosen family. Every day, I choose you." "And we choose you," said Christopher. "Every day," Franklin confirmed. "Forever," Nancy finished. Emily Jessica looked around the table and felt her heart overflowing with gratitude. She hadn't just found her biological family. She had built something new, an extended family rooted in love, forgiveness, and second chances. "I'd like to propose a toast," she said, raising her glass of juice. "A toast to what?" asked Franklin. "To second chances, to families finding each other, to love that overcomes every obstacle." "To second chances," Nancy repeated. "To families finding each other," said Michael. "To love that overcomes every obstacle," Christopher added. "And to photos that fall from the glove compartment at just the right moment," Franklin said with a smile. Everyone laughed and raised their glasses. It was the end of a long journey and the beginning of a new life. 2 years later, Second Chance Farm had become a landmark in the region. Dozens of animals had found new homes, hundreds of children had learned about farming, and several families had reconnected through the programs they developed. Emily Jessica had married a veterinarian from a nearby town who fell in love not just with her, but with her whole family. Franklin and Nancy had become the best of friends, united by their love for their daughter. Michael had graduated college and become the farm's official veterinarian. Christopher developed sustainable farming techniques that were being adopted by other farms in the area. "I never thought my life could be this full," Emily Jessica told her husband Daniel as they watched the sunset from the porch. "You deserve all this happiness. We all do. Sometimes we just need a second chance to find our way. And you found yours. We found ours. You, me, my family. We built something beautiful together. And we'll keep building. Forever." Daniel hugged his wife, and they stood there, admiring the sunflowers Martha had planted decades ago, now blooming more beautifully than ever. "Do you think Martha can see all this?" Daniel asked. "I'm sure of it." She's smiling, knowing her daughter finally found her way home. "And what a beautiful home you've built. It's not just a home, it's a family, a place where everyone deserves a fresh start, where everyone deserves to be loved." "Exactly." Just then, Franklin walked up to the porch. "Mind if I interrupt?" "Of course, Dad. Always. I just wanted to say I'm proud of you, of everything you've become. I became who I am because of you, because of all of you." "No. You became who you are because of your choices. You chose to forgive, chose to love, chose to build bridges. I learned from the best teachers. We learned from you too. What did you learn? That it's never too late to start over. That family isn't just about blood. That love can overcome any obstacle. That second chances exist," added Nancy, who stepped closer to join the conversation. "That forgiveness is possible," said Michael, appearing on the porch. "That life always surprises," finished Christopher. Emily Jessica looked at her family and smiled. They were 6 completely different people, from different stories but united by something stronger than blood. Unconditional love. "Do you know what we're doing tomorrow?" she asked. "What?" said Franklin. "We're visiting Martha's grave. I want to tell her about all our plans, about Daniel, about how the family has grown." "She'd love to hear that," said Nancy. "She already knows," corrected Franklin, "but she'd love to hear it." "Then it's settled. Tomorrow we visit Martha." "All together," said Michael. "All together," confirmed Christopher. "As a family," added Daniel. "As the family we always were, even when we didn't know it," finished Emily Jessica. That night everyone slept in peace, knowing they had found not only each other, but also themselves, and that no matter what the future held, they would face it together. Because some families are born together, others find each other along the way. And the best ones are those who choose to stay together, despite all obstacles. The story of Emily Jessica Miller Wilson was proof that it's never too late to come home, and that sometimes home isn't a place, but the people we choose to love. In the farm's garden, the sunflowers kept blooming, always turned toward the sun just as that family had learned to do, always turned toward love, always turned toward hope, always turned toward second chances. And so, a photo that fell from a glove compartment on a dusty road became the bridge that reconnected a family separated by time, distance, and circumstances, but never by love. Because true love knows no borders, has no expiration date, and always finds its way back home. The end of the story. And you? What did you think of this touching story? Have you ever been through situations that completely changed your life? Share your experience in the comments and leave a like to support our channel. Subscribe so you don't miss other heartfelt stories like this one.